Stephen Schork on that, of the Schork Group. He's the principal there. You know, Stephen, we forget about just the pollution behind this, too. We got a state that's so, gung-ho driven, to cut it back out of companies and autos and gas stations and the rest. But this is a huge issue on just Mother Nature's front, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. We always tend to focus on what fossil fuels are putting into the atmosphere, but we tend to ignore what situations like wildfires are putting in. And unfortunately, we have the political movement there in California, they're doing everything they can to enhance the impact of wildfires. So on the energy spectrum, you're not allowed to clear cut underneath power lines. You're not allowed to clear away dead vegetation. You're not allowed to bury lines, or you make it very difficult to bury lines. So we're taking all of these policies to try and mitigate the impact of fossil fuels. And what we're doing is, by not allowing us to burn fossil fuels in a more respected manner, you're essentially increasing the impact of these wildfires.
You know, another thing, Stephen, this is a state that is really trying to herald as quickly as possible all EVs all the time, I think by 2035, yet their grid is pretty compromised. The Governor Newsom, not too long ago, was urging those who do own electric vehicles to charge them gingerly during off-peak times. And I'm thinking to myself, that's when they represent but 1 out of 10 California vehicles. What happens when the state gets its goal to make them 10 out of 10?
Yeah, absolutely, Neil. And just anecdotally, I was out in California back in September. I have children that go to school there. I was visiting. I rented a Turo. I went on Turo and I rented a Tesla. California doesn't have the infrastructure for my Tesla. I would go to a bank every other day. I would have to wait 30 minutes even before a charging station, a supercharger, opened up. And then it took another 50 minutes for me to charge my car. Wow. So this was in California, of all places. So they're not ready for prime time now. And so to your point with the grid, and I got a kick. I was getting those notices on my phone. Please wait to charge your car because we don't have the grid can't handle this. And I'm getting a kick out of this because a week later now, Newsom wants to hook up by 2035 30 million cars, every registered car in California. He wants to be on electricity. And today, California can't keep the lights on. We're going into the Santa Anas. The wind's going to be blowing. Those power lines are going to be blowing. They're going to have to shut down power because you can't clear cut underneath those power lines. So you don't want to run the risk of those power lines hitting some of that shrubbery and igniting another fire. So we're going into another part of the California season where they can't keep the lights on. And yet we're going to continue to pursue a policy in this state that is untenable. We're already seeing it now. And this is not me talking. This is the LA Times talking, that all of those solar panels that the state encouraged consumers to go into 20 years ago, they're at the end of their useful life. They are now filling up landfills in California, and the heavy metals now are running out of those panels into the ground because California never had a plan to do away with the old generation. So it's one policy where California's taken one step forward for the environment and then taken 2 steps backwards with their inability to enact a rational plan going forward.
You know, I do have to tip my hand to you, my friend, because you were seeing this before anyone was, and you'd think they'd acknowledge, all right, maybe, Stephen, you're right on this, but of course, I'm sure you're waiting for that acknowledgement, but keep waiting. Stephen Schork, thank you very much, my friend.